TheKTV.
I know this can be very confusing for people because our party has changed its name. The party itself has not changed, just the name, from BC Liberals. Now, the BC Liberal Party, of which I was part of under Gordon Campbell, Premier Gordon Campbell and Premier Christy Clark, I retired from public life in 2013 and went back into the private sector. But the BC Liberals was always a coalition. It was not connected to the federal Liberals, a totally separate party. And it was a coalition of people that federally might be conservative voters or liberal voters, but provincially they come together, united under the BC Liberals to vote against the NDP. But it still caused confusion because some conservative voters said, oh, I don't like Liberal, because I vote conservative federally, so why are you called Liberals? So that's in part why we changed our name to BC United, so that we could unite together, whether you're a federal Liberal voter, federal Conservative voter, a disgruntled NDP supporter. Together you can come together and unite under BC United against the NDP. So what people need to know, and what we will do a better job at making sure of, is that when people go to vote, they will know that BC United is the former BC Liberals, okay? Now, the other important thing for your viewers to understand is that the BC Conservative Party is not connected to the federal Conservative Party. It's a very separate party. And it's a party that has not elected an MLA in 50 years in British Columbia. But because they have the same name, some people are confused and think it's Pierre Poilievre's party. It is not Pierre Poilievre's party. It's a very separate party. And so when the next election comes around on October 19th, our job, our most important job, is to make sure that people understand BC United is the former BC Liberal government that got lots of really good things done in British Columbia. All the major projects that you see in British Columbia were built by BC Liberal, BC United. The Canada Line, the Evergreen Line, Sea to Sky Highway, the hospitals, the Abbotsford Hospital, the Surrey Memorial Tower, all these hospitals, etc., Eagle Ridge Hospital expansions, all happened under BC Liberal, BC United governments. So I think that is very, very important for your viewers to know. Yes, we are going to have specific advertising just in the ethnic communities in particular, the South Asian, the Chinese, Korean communities, to make sure that there's real understanding that BC United is the former BC Liberals and that BC Conservatives is not connected to the federal party. Yeah, so you're right, the party doesn't like it. No party does. I can tell you that the NDP party did not like it when two of their MLAs left and sat as independents because they had a dispute with their own party. The BC Conservative Party did not like it when several of their candidates had to be fired because they had made comments that were racist and homophobic. And our parties had the same problem where we have a few of our MLAs got scared because of the internet polls. They thought, oh no, that means maybe I won't win. And I understand that. It's very understandable for people to get scared because they want to get elected, right? And if people think they might not get elected, then they do things that maybe they normally wouldn't do. But I also have been around for a long time. I was an MLA from 2001 to 2013. Then I went back into the private sector for 10 years and I came back now and I'm leader of the official opposition, BC United, formerly BC Liberals. And my experience is that what happens between elections doesn't much matter. What happens that's very important is during elections. Because during elections are when the public they really start paying attention. And I remember when I retired from public life in 2013, I didn't run in that election. But I very much remember that 2 weeks before that election campaign started, the BC Liberals were in very bad position in the polls. We were 23 points below the NDP. And for the previous year, we were tied in the polls with the BC Conservatives. Because again, there was confusion, in the public's mind about BC Conservatives and federal Conservatives. So it was not a good position to be in. It didn't feel very nice. But when the election campaign started, and people started paying attention and looking at who their candidates are and saying, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I want the NDP government. People remember what they were like when they were in government. And we ended up winning another majority government when nobody expected it. All the polls were wrong. All the political pundits were wrong. All the media was wrong. But the public was right. So, I think this time around, we just have to make sure that the public knows that this is an important election. The NDP record is very clear. I feel pretty confident people are not going to want 4 more years of this healthcare system or 4 more years of the drug crisis and all the chaos on our streets and the lack of affordability. And if they want change, then we are the change. We're the responsible change. We're mainstream common sense change. We're not the extreme right or the extreme left of the NDP. I think we're mainstream, and I think that's what the public will look for. Yeah, and you see that more and more, by the way, around the world. You saw in the European parliamentary elections, the extreme right was supposed to win a big landslide win, and they ended up coming in 3rd place. The polls were all wrong. Even in India, they thought that Modi, the leader of India, was going to win a landslide election, but his party did not. The polls were wrong. So polls, you have to be very, very careful. Well, the most important is that we are a government of lower taxes, not higher. The NDP government's introduced or increased 33 new and increased taxes over the last 7.5 years. That's unacceptable. Our record in government as BC Liberals, now called BC United, was very clear. On our first day in the legislature, I was there. When I first got elected in 2001, our very first day in the legislature, we reduced personal income taxes 25%. So I think our economic platform is very different from the NDP. We believe in controlling spending, being responsible, keeping taxes low, so that we encourage people to spend money in the economy. Right now, people can't spend money because everything's too expensive. And they're struggling right now in British Columbia. After 8 years of NDP government, we have the highest housing prices in all of Canada. We've got the highest average rents in all of Canada. We have the highest gas prices in all of Canada. And those are not good results. So that's an important difference. The other difference is decriminalization of dangerous drugs like heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl. The NDP decriminalized these drugs. And they're trying to send a message to our children that drug use is okay. They're trying to normalize drug use. I can tell you that's a very big mistake. We are going to scrap decriminalization because that was a big mistake. We're going to make sure we teach our kids in schools the dangers of drug use. Drugs today are very, very dangerous. You can die from drug use. And we're going to focus our efforts not on giving free drugs to people struggling with addiction, but free treatment. So we help them get better. That's going to be the BC United approach. And then on crime and dealing with criminals, we are going to make sure that there is consequences to bad behavior. Under David Eby's catch and release program, what happens is people get arrested, they're released almost right away. And so the public do not feel safe because the NDP are more concerned about a criminal's right to be released and reoffend than about protecting public safety. We are going to put community safety first, not the criminal's right to be released and reoffend. And that's a very big shift. And when we do this, we will start to see a change in our streets. They will become safer. The final thing we will do is those people with severe mental health issues that right now are left on the streets and are often exploited and abused by drug dealers and human traffickers, and are increasingly dangerous to others, including themselves. We're going to remove those folks from the streets involuntarily, if necessary, and get them into proper, secure care where, with proper psychiatric and medical supports, they can do better. But you cannot leave them on the streets, because when they're left on the streets, they're not doing well, They can't make decisions in their own best interest because of their mental situation or their addiction. And so we have to remove them from the streets and give them better care. With those changes, we will dramatically get this province back on track, fix the challenges we face like we did before after we inherited 10 years of NDP government, 2001. And we will govern smartly for British Columbia like we did when I worked with Gordon Campbell, like we did when I worked with Christy Clark, and like we'll do when I'm the Premier. Well, I think what we've seen over the last 10 years really is a system that has been abused, and that's part of the problem. Now we have my wife used to teach English to Koreans, as did my sister-in-law that came here. So a lot of Koreans, as you know, will come to British Columbia, study here, and then go back and enter the Sky University, Seouldae, Yonsei, Korea U as foreign students and be able to study at the universities in Korea. And to do that, they need to have their opportunity here in British Columbia. But the Korean student population has not been really a part of the challenges that we've been facing. They've actually been quite good. But I think there are some other areas where they've had problems with too many students coming and not even really studying here and are going and off and working. Oh yeah, so that abuse has resulted in the federal government coming down and saying we're reducing the numbers. But the NDP government working with the federal government said, yes, we'll reduce the numbers, but I think it was kind of like a very big club to deal with a smaller problem. I think they could have been more careful about how they dealt with it to make sure that they're not punishing students that have been coming here for many, many, many years and really working hard and doing well here and then going back home and entering into the university system there. So I just think we have to be careful about what the government's doing there, both the NDP government and the federal government. Yeah, look, British Columbia's always benefited from having foreign students come to British Columbia, whether Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, Americans, you name it. That's always been a good thing for us. But I just think that there's two things that are important. Number one, that it not be abused, and there was abuse taking place. And number two, that we have to remember that British Columbia kids should always have priority to get into our university system. That's very important too. And a lot of the colleges and universities lost, they sort of lost the plot there. So a lot of our kids are having trouble getting into our own university system because there are so many foreign students. So we have to make sure we get the balance right. Look, yes, I've been personally, I'm a long-time federal conservative. I consider Pierre Poilievre a friend, as same with Stephen Harper when he was the Prime Minister, all the way back. But our party also has supporters that support the federal Liberals. That's what a coalition is all about. A coalition is about support from all parties, except, the NDP usually. Well, what I would say to the Korean community, it's been a long-standing, hard-working, entrepreneurial part of British Columbia for many, many, many decades. And the Korean community, I think, is a very important community. And what I want to encourage the Korean community to understand is we can make things better in British Columbia. Right now, there's very difficult times. Our healthcare system is in crisis. Our taxes are way too high. Our young people want to move out of British Columbia because they can't afford to live here. So we need to start making changes pretty fast. And what I would say to the Korean community is make sure we vote for people that know how to make those changes, that have the experience of being in government, as I do. I was a senior minister. I was a minister of transportation, minister of finance, minister of health, and I'm the leader of the official opposition, representing, we had 25 MLAs in opposition holding the NDP government to account. And as we go into this next election, very important, vote for people and a party that are going to be able to get elected and start making changes right away. Because if we continue to allow this NDP government to remain in government, then I think we're going to see our healthcare system collapse, honestly. And I just think that our economy is going to continue to go down, and it's going to be a very, very challenging place to live. And I don't want to see that, not for my own kids, my own two daughters who are 14 and 11, not for your kids or grandkids. But to make sure that doesn't happen, please support your BC United candidate, formerly the BC Liberals, and let's get people back in government that know how to make things, and know how to fix things and get things back on track so we can be optimistic about the future again.